Imagine yourself waking before the sun in a makeshift camp nestled against a rock outcrop in the cold emptiness of the Taklamakan Desert. The fire has long since gone out. Ash clings to the edge of your sleeves as you shake off a sleep that never truly came. The desert wind moans softly through the cloth of your tent, carrying with it the dry, chalky taste of ancient dust. You are a caravan laborer, not a merchant, not someone who profits, but one who walks beside camels, hauls crates of tea, ceramics, or sometimes raw wool, and keeps a watchful eye for movement on the horizon that might not be friendly. Your hands are cracked, your lips chapped. You wrap your scarf tighter across your face, but it does little to block the sting of fine sand. It creeps into your eyes, into your food, even between your teeth. The desert is endless, and so is the wind. Mornings on the Silk Road begin with slow, deliberate movements. You boil the last of yesterday's tea leaves in water tinged slightly with salt from the leather pouch. There's a small hunk of stale bread, brittle with cold, that you gnaw without complaint. Luxury is a memory, comfort a distant illusion. The camels groan and shift, their knees creak as they rise. Each animal is a vital companion, beast of burden, source of warmth at night, and occasionally a silent judge of your pace. Their moods matter. A sick or panicked camel can spell disaster for an entire journey. You begin walking, always walking. Riding is for those who pay. Step by step, the caravan moves forward, across salt flats that reflect the morning light in blinding white, through mountain passes where air grows thin and brittle, past skeletons of beasts that once failed to find water in time. Time stretches oddly here. The landscape repeats itself. You begin to measure your days, not by sunrise or prayer, but by the distance between wells. Each one a fragile promise of survival. The fear is always there, quiet and patient. Bandits sometimes shadow the caravan for days before striking, disguised as traders or simply watching from a ridge, waiting for the weakest point. Other times, fear comes in the form of silence, when the guide suddenly seems uncertain, or the maps don't match the terrain, or the wind picks up in just the wrong way. At night, you settle again. The camels are tied close together. Fires are lit with care. Stories are told in low voices, not for entertainment, but to pass the time and soothe the nerves. You might share a laugh over a fellow traveler's snoring, or swap bits of folk wisdom about the stars. Then silence returns. Sleep is thin. The sand makes your blanket rough. Your bones ache from the cold ground. And always you dream of arrival, of a warm bath, a soft cot, a bowl of rice or lamb stew. But the road stretches on and on. This was the rhythm of the Silk Road for countless travelers, not merchants in embroidered robes, but ordinary men and women tasked with the simplest, hardest thing. Keep walking, keep moving forward, through the wind, through the dark, through the constant scrape of sand against skin. And still, there is something in the quiet of that endless space. A kind of stillness, a patience that settles in your chest like cool water. Because even hardship has a rhythm, even suffering becomes routine. The year is 629 CE. The Tang dynasty rules China, its capital Chang'an buzzing with traders, scholars and diplomats. But far beyond its gates, over deserts and mountains and river valleys, lies a world that many only know through rumor. The lands of India, the birthplace of the Buddha, the source of sacred texts long lost to time. And one man is determined to reach it. His name is Xuanzang, a monk, quiet, scholarly, driven not by conquest or gold, but by a thirst for truth, for the original teachings of his faith. His journey would last over 17 years. He would travel more than 10,000 miles, and though his name may not echo in the halls of Western history, his footsteps shaped the future of Buddhism in East Asia. His story begins in secret. Despite an imperial ban on travel beyond the borders of China, Xuanzang slips away from Chang'an under cover of darkness. With only a few provisions and unwavering conviction, he begins his long trek across the Gobi Desert. The sand seems endless. The stars at night hang low and sharp. He writes later of seeing bones strewn across the path, travelers who came before him and never reached the other side. He is not a soldier. He carries no sword, only scrolls, prayers, and the quiet weight of his mission. The journey leads him to the high passes of the Pamir Mountains. The air grows thin, snow crunches beneath sandals, altitude sickness, fatigue, and hunger take their toll. But still, he presses forward, surviving on sparse monastery hospitality or what little grain can be begged along the way. In time, he enters the Indian subcontinent, a region then divided among many kingdoms, each with its own customs, dialects, and traditions. He studies in Nalanda, the great Buddhist university. He engages with scholars, debates philosophy, and copies sacred texts by hand. For years, he immerses himself in study, and he does not rush his return. Xuanzang sees not just temples, but suffering, famine, war, caste division. He is not blind to the complexities of the world he came so far to understand, and still he observes with empathy. He records with detail, a monk, but also a chronicler. When at last he returns to China, welcomed as a hero, he brings with him hundreds of manuscripts, including long-lost versions of Buddhist scriptures. He spends the rest of his life translating them, writing his memoirs, and teaching. His work would influence Buddhist philosophy for centuries, but perhaps more quietly. His story reminds us of something deeper, that great journeys are not always born of armies or empires. Some begin in silence, with nothing more than a question and the courage to leave. Tonight, as you breathe a little slower and your mind begins to wander, imagine him, a lone figure crossing a vast plain, eyes fixed on the horizon, walking not toward glory, but toward wisdom. The Silk Road did more than carry goods. It carried ideas, people, stories, and it gave rise to cities, sudden oases of life in the vast emptiness of desert and steppe. But many of these cities are gone now, swallowed by sand, forgotten by maps, their names half pronounced in cracked stone and scattered bone. Let's wander softly through their remains. Begin with Nia in the Tarim Basin, now part of western China's Xinjiang region. Once a thriving settlement of traders, farmers, and Buddhist monks, Nia stood near a narrow path between mountain and desert. Archaeologists have found wooden tablets there, messages written in Kharosthi script, dried-out shoes, a comb, a child's toy. The wood of door frames still stands upright thousands of years later in the stillness of the desert. No wind strong enough to topple them, no visitors for centuries. Further west, there was Merv, once called the Pearl of the East. Located in present-day Turkmenistan, Merv was one of the largest cities in the world around the 12th century. Its libraries, gardens, and tiled courtyards hummed with life. It welcomed mathematicians, astronomers, theologians, the kind of place where tea was poured slowly and knowledge passed from tongue to page like breath. And yet, in 1221, the Mongols came. The city was destroyed, its people killed, its buildings burned. What was once the crown jewel of Central Asia became quiet. Today, only faint outlines remain in the earth, crumbling walls, broken pottery, and memories that drift like dust in the air. Then there is Dandan Wilik, a name few remember. Hidden beneath dunes for over 1,000 years, this city was rediscovered in the early 20th century. Explorers found temples painted with images of bodhisattvas and mythical birds, scrolls in multiple languages. It had been a place of great mixing, of belief, of art, of thought. But the desert, once pushed back by irrigation, crept in again. Now jackals walk where prayers were once whispered. And still further, the fortress city of Lulan, near the eastern edge of the Taklamakan. Once a vital crossroads, it vanished without warning sometime in the 4th century CE. Water sources dried up, trade routes shifted, the wind came, and the people simply left. These lost cities are not just ruins, they are echoes. They remind us that even the grandest places, bustling, lit with color and life, can vanish. All it takes is a change in the wind, a dried-up river, a forgotten road. As you breathe now, slowly, picture those ancient streets beneath the sand. The footprints, the laughter that once filled markets, the quiet rustle of silk, long decayed, buried but not gone, still here, just resting. Now let us leave the wind and sand behind. Let your thoughts drift eastward to a different kind of Silk Road story, a city not forgotten but remembered in legend, a jewel among the dust, Samarkand. Nestled in the fertile Zarafshan River Valley, Samarkand was a city of color, of geometry, of fragrance. Here, minarets touched the sky and domes shimmered in morning light. Markets overflowed with figs, melons, pistachios, and silk, always silk. This was a place where the elite lived differently. If you were a merchant prince or an official in the service of the Timurid court, your days began not with aching feet and stale bread, but with the scent of rosewater poured into a shallow copper basin by a servant's hand. Your robes, dyed deep indigo or saffron yellow, were stitched with thread brought from far lands. You did not walk through sandstorms. You reclined on pillows, woven in Bukhara, under ceilings painted with stars. You might spend the morning listening to a scholar recite verses in Persian, or examining miniature paintings from distant China. The elite of Samarkand were connoisseurs of art, of language, of rare spices and stranger ideas. Ideas flowed here like water, and so did wealth. The city's bazaars pulsed with goods: lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cinnamon from Ceylon, ivory from Africa, coral from the Mediterranean, and of course silk, soft and luminous, folded into bundles tied with ribbons of gold. Meals were elaborate but measured. Dishes of lamb and chickpeas, honey-drenched pastries and rice steamed with barberries. Wine, for those who drank, might be poured into delicate cups shaped like tulips. Music played softly, the strings of a dutar plucked beside the bubbling of a courtyard fountain. But even among luxury, the elite were watchful. Power here was beautiful but fragile. Dynasties shifted, trade routes moved. One year's ally could be the next year's invader. And so, behind the carved lattice windows and blue-tiled facades, whispers moved. Marriages were arranged, spies listened, alliances wove and unraveled like silk itself. Still, for a time, there was wonder. Poets praised the moon over Samarkand as brighter than in any other sky. Astronomers mapped the heavens from observatories built by Ulugh Beg. Stories were traded over tea that tasted of clove and memory. This was life at the top of the world's most famous road, a place where boredom came not from suffering, but from the slow, velvet luxury of having everything and wondering what might come next. And now, the lights in the palace grow dim, the voices in the market grow quiet. The last caravan departs the gate, its bells gently chiming, and you float gently with it into sleep.